and they even admit that. I covered that yesterday on the Sunday show. How Buffett rule would still be escaped by highest earning households. And the Washington Post admits it. Here's London Independent headline. Goldman Sachs conquers Europe. Raising taxes, bankrupting everybody except the elites to transfer the money to them because the government traders signed on to the fiat derivative debts created by Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and others. And again, I keep repeating that because that's the giant elephant in the room. That's the huge hoax. And then this smirking Warren Buffett trying to act non-threatening in every photo I see with an ice cream. Oh, it's the nice old man with an ice cream. Folks, evil doesn't look like Jeffrey Dahmer or Freddy Krueger or Jason from Friday the 13th. Or the killer from Halloween. Or the monsters from the movie Alien. Evil looks like little old men in suits who know to look non-threatening and go, I'm a nice old man, raise my taxes. When he knows full well he helped get rid of Glass-Steagall and he was the biggest beneficiary of the bailout money. Here that is out of McClatchy. Buffett, champion of bailout, is also leading beneficiary. And I know I keep hammering on this before I get to the IRS because people say, well, the IRS is a little out of control, but you got to pay your share. You know, we've always had taxes. Death and taxes, all this talk. Yeah, we've always had tariffs and trade and sales taxes and things. We didn't always have property taxes. That's feudal serf tax. You don't own your land. We didn't have one until the 50s in this country. You used to really own your property. You don't own your land. You rent it. You pay government rent. And they'll take it if you don't. And you pay with that and lose your property rights to pay for the government Fed-run brainwashing centers, the public indoctrination prison centers. The churches until the 50s weren't 501c3 charities. They knew they were under the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Government has no jurisdiction in it until they trick you to sign into the jurisdiction. And now you go to pretty much any church there is. Go to the Methodist Church. First Methodist of Austin. Bill and Melinda Gates are going to save you. Open the borders. Heather has 2 mommies. Go to a Baptist church. Worship the police state. Do whatever government tells you. I've read the stuff that's at Catholic churches online. Turn your firearms in. They're of the devil. Open the borders up. It's illegal to have borders. World government's good. These are government spokesmen, even though they may love God and not be evil people. They're gullible chumps who think Romans 13, Hitler's favorite passage, is their world. And you should get it, Infowars.com, Pastor Chuck Baldwin's excellent book, Romans 13, written with his son, who's a constitutional lawyer. And get it out to every one of these preachers and rebuke them. I mean, that's why my wife always wants me to go to church. If I'd have gone to church with her and heard that Baptist preacher go into this government worship, I'd have had to stand up right there. I mean, I cannot be around it. And maybe that is my calling every Sunday, to go into church and stand up. Notice that's why they always got the big bouncer. They call him an usher. It's all so devilish, I tell you. These people have no idea. Let me explain something to you, ladies and gentlemen. I know you know this, but we've got to get this information out to everybody. I'm going to shoot a special report that'll be on the nightly news tonight. I want everybody to get it and get it out to because we've got to call talk radio. We've got to call the newspapers. We've got to write letters to the editor. We've got to call Congress now, because this is incredible. Congress passed the NDAA saying the president can secretly arrest and disappear citizens. They've got other legislation pending that says for any reason they can strip your citizenship if the president or Defense Department says, and deport you as a natural-born citizen. See, nobody, even kangaroo court, Nazi courts, didn't say you weren't a German. They would just trump something up. This is saying you just disappear. And of course, it led to that later in Germany. But at first, they would have show trials. Everywhere they want to just suspend due process and say you're guilty until we bury you 6 feet under. It's not guilty until proven innocent. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Then it's guilty until proven innocent. And now it's you're guilty, period, government's God, and we're buying giant armored tanks. Folks, search was up over the weekend. Homeland Security buys giant armored vehicles. And these things look like something out of The Running Man. I mean, these are armored vehicles that look like the tanks the Nazis built. I mean, they've got wheels that are like, 10 feet tall. And they've got like foot-thick armor for the American people. They're buying hundreds of millions of rounds a month, digging in armored pillboxes that they drag behind these things. And again, it's not the government. It's foreign banks took over. Yeah, there's Paul Watson's article about Homeland Security buying up ammo supplies. Type in Homeland Security buys giant armored vehicles and tanks. This new one I saw Friday that Nemo posted was just absolutely gargantuan. And then I looked up, they're buying hundreds of them. I've talked to the troops at the bases and confirmed and then checked and it's true. They're taking warrior fighting vehicles, Bradleys, and others and deploying them in strategic locations all over the country. In fact, most counties now have regular Army caches, not at the regular armory, but they've got caches at facilities. I was worried about citizens running to those. They've got hidden caches of tanks, armored vehicles, flamethrowers, rocket launchers. There it is. Homeland Security unveils monstrous SWAT trucks. Look at this thing. That's bigger than the ones they've got in Iraq. The troops can't have those. All right, and that's not even the big one. I found one in there that was even bigger. It had even bigger wheels. It's the oldest story in human history where governments get taken over by criminals. They know the public's waking up, so they arm to the teeth and declare anybody who doesn't want to be a slave the enemy. I'm going to explain something. The public Agenda 21 plan is they're going to keep raising, even when housing prices went down where I live, they raised property taxes. They're going to bankrupt everybody who isn't on the inside track, just like all the other coal plants have to shut down, except those owned by globalists. They're just, and Congress says don't do it, and Obama says I'm going to do it. Don't launch a war in Libya, I got UN authority. You get to a point in tyranny where they're not eating around the edges anymore. But where they do whatever they want, whenever they want. And they train you to be a complete prisoner. The preacher where my wife went to church said the way to do it is if you get pulled over, be thankful and put your keys on the dash and your hands up. I mean, literal prisoner training. That's what the TSA is. As if we're all criminals. And I always do that and the officers thank me. Why don't you just put your hands out the window? And that's what our kids are trained for in the schools, being put on the school buses and taken to FEMA centers. And some cops listening go, well, that does make it safer. The point is crooks run you. You may be the nicest guy in the world. Might be fun to go deer hunting with you. I bet it would be. I bet you'd be fun to sit around a table, drink beer, and eat a T-bone steak. But the point is the government isn't the government anymore, okay? Now, I want to go to this clip, and we're going to come back with the IRS news. But domestic checkpoints, when the IRS, who has its own fake courts and who takes houses without courts and who garnishes wages without courts and who just says what you owe them, and it's all written Byzantine so the elites are exempt. It's written like that on purpose. They say if you owe taxes, you're not going to be able to travel outside the country, and they're going to revoke, that is, turn off the chip in your passport. I told you every week for over a decade that was the plan, because I would read the white papers coming out of MIT. They admit the system they set up in Baghdad and Fallujah is modeled after the, quote, control grid, cashless society control grid. That's not my term. That's the RAND Corporation, Department of Defense, MIT. The Matrix isn't a term written by some author for the Wachowski brothers. That's a 1970s Pentagon plan. Doesn't mean that ever. I mean, it's so crazy. Reality is so much wilder than any science fiction movie. People tell me they're bored. You're living in an artificial environment, basically, now in these cities, with everything being manipulated, electromagnetic, chemical, biological, all of it, on record. The elites all have their private food supply, non-GMO. They don't take the vaccines. I'm going to go to break and come back with this. But here's Rahm Emanuel. This is what this new domestic Homeland Security, national ID, domestic checkpoint, capital control system is just, you don't own a gun because we say. No judge, no jury. You don't fly because we say. You don't leave the country because we say. You don't have a job. TSA is going to be over all hiring. They're going to be in all neighborhoods. And folks, every dentist my dad has now talked to, he thought it was just him, so he asked other dentists and called other offices. They're all being approached by spies, it turns out, who were long-term patients. And, of course, I can't even say the guy's name because he wouldn't even tell me because it's a doctor client privilege. Of course, the government, the doctors are told, though, go ahead and tell us stuff. And he was approached, and this guy was so dumb, he didn't even know that, my dad was the father of Alex Jones, even though he'd been going to him for 10 years or more, and my dad had treated his mother. And he tried to recruit my dad to spy on his patients and to be a Homeland Security secret agent. Pay card. And my dad called me, he goes, are they trying to set me up? And I said, no, ask the other dentist. And they're like, yeah, we got approached, but we're not supposed to talk about it. Some of them at their houses, folks, they're going around getting an army of evil ready for us. This is the takedown of America. These are the foreign spies. These are the agents. We've been infiltrated. It's the New World Order. I've got the BBC saying Goldman Sachs conquered Europe, put all its people in, over the national police, over the finance ministers. I'm getting chills. The presidents, the prime ministers. Latin America, they run almost all the countries. Asia. And it's standardized. Black tanks, black armor, black uniforms, checkpoints, can't leave the country, citizen spies, block captains, preachers telling you to spy on each other. And they go to these preachers and these dentists, and they get on these power trips, and here's a Homeland Security guy going, come to this meeting. And he was showing him the badge and everything. And I got money, and you're going to get paid, and you're going to spy on everybody. And my dad's like, spy on what? Everything. Something big's about to happen. And my dad's just looking at him. They're not federal agents. They work for the private banks that have taken over this country and brag in hundreds of publications like The Economist that it is a dictatorship of, quote, technocratic central bankers. Remember all those years I said central bankers imploding the economy through derivatives, world government, then they're going to have capital controls, checkpoints to buy and sell, face scanning, it'll be a digital photo, all of it now being announced. And you're like, okay, well, I'll just put up with that. No. It's meant to manage the economy, track it all, shut down the grassroots, farmers markets, you name it, that they call black market, because they know as they squeeze you, you're going to try to survive. And this is about no more single-parent homes, not having money to have kids. They now say that. We're going to bankrupt you so you can't have kids, and if you do and you're poor, we're going to take them. This is the planned economy. This is Agenda 21. This is it. Do you understand? It's worse than I'm saying. People go, oh, it can't be that bad. It's worse. It's worse. It's all going to happen unless we really get upset. And again, what got me upset is this Forbes article and the Fox articles is all like,